Today on the show, is Apple helping people cheat on their wives? Kyle and Jackie O failed in Melbourne, but they actually didn't. Plus, I genuinely thought there might have been an apocalypse. I'm not joking. All that and more on 20th Century Boy, the show that won't be there for you when the rain starts to pour. Welcome to 20th Century Boy. My name is Apocalypse Mike, and this is the inside of my mind. Welcome to the show. It's 20th Century Boy, a podcast by me, Radio Mike, not Apocalypse Mike, but I do a different name at the top of every show. Welcome. 20th Century Boy, the conversations you wish you were having about the stuff that nobody else cares about. Come and join me each week for a one-sided weekly conversation between me and you. It's one-sided. You can't respond live, like in a real conversation, but you can respond not live, and then I'll get back to you the next week, right? Which is definitely not a proper conversation, but it's as good as we can do in the podcasting medium. So get in touch, radiomikepod@gmail.com, Instagram radio.mike, Twitter @itsradiomike, you know, all of the above, okay? This is how we podcast here, okay? Hey, a couple things. First of all, patreon.com/radiomike is the best way for you to support the show. If you like the show, if you like any of my content, if you get anything out of me every week, consider donating me a few dollars a month, literally a few dollars a month. It's like one coffee a month. Can really, really help just pay the bills here at Radio Mike Productions. And I do a bunch of stuff, and my content's always growing and changing and everything like that. So yeah, if you've gotten anything out of this pod this year or any of the years I've done it or anything like that, please consider donating to the Patreon. There's a bunch of bonus content up there. I've been well, though. I had this crazy experience the other morning. And look, what I'm about to say is probably going to show some level of privilege, I guess you could say, and I'm willing to own that because, you know, the most bizarre thing happened the other day when I was in the morning, actually. So I guess this is where the privilege comes in. I don't work a 9 to 5. I guess in that sense, I'm quite lucky. I don't work a 9 to 5 job. I often work from home. In fact, almost always work from home. And that's all great. You know, I'm really lucky that I have this lifestyle and it's good. I get to do this podcast. I get to make content. It's great. But I might get up 8 o'clock at the moment is a good waking up time, getting out of bed and, you know, getting started. And that's, you know, again, the privilege of working from home. I don't have to be like up at 7, get on a train at, you know, it's just, you know, I don't have to travel anywhere for work most of the time, and that's good. But had this incident because my partner wakes up quite early to go to work because she doesn't work from home, and we're talking like, you know, she'll be up at 6, getting into work at 6:30, 7, and I guess I realized that we're now in Australia, at least in kind of the middle of winter. We're getting very close to the middle of winter, which I guess are the darkest days of the year. But something completely bamboozled me on Monday morning because I woke up at about 4 a.m. and obviously it was pitch black outside. I just woke up, couldn't get back to sleep, so I was just sort of chilling in bed while my partner slept. She got up at 6 and it was really windy the night before. Rainy, windy, horrible winds. You know, the whole building was creaking. I had a bunch of laundry drying on the balcony. It's all been blown around and got soaked again in the rain, and it's still drying off now. And so it was 6:30. My partner got up. She left for work. Great. So I got up as well. Noticed at 6:30, still pitch black outside. I'm like, yeah, 7 o'clock, the sun comes up. Gets to 7 a.m. Now, again, people listening who live normal lives are probably going to be laughing at this, criticizing me, and I'll take it. But this blew my mind. Gets to 7 a.m., still pitch black outside. I couldn't believe it. I looked at my watch. I'm like, is it daylight? Have I done something wrong? Am I dreaming? Is it not actually 7 a.m.? Is it 6 a.m.? Why is the sun not up? Surely by 7 a.m. it is light. And I go, this is bizarre. Again, I have no memories because when I was at school, at high school, my dad would wake us up at 7 a.m. That's when I had to wake up. And, we'd leave for school at about 7:45. I do not remember at any point being a child or being a teenager and it being dark when I woke up. I am sorry. I will defend this to the grave. I have no memories ever of it being dark when I was at high school when I woke up, and I would wake up at 7 o'clock. No memories. It was absolutely absurd. 6 o'clock? Yes. 7 a.m.? No. Now, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but maybe my memory isn't that trusted because I've told this to a few people who find it funny. I genuinely, I'm not making this up. I have no memory of ever feeling cold like before the age of 18. Okay? I don't. I'm not joking. Like, I remember being like 23, 24 and it was winter and I was just really cold. I was like, it is really cold. It is so cold. And I'm not joking. I genuinely remember thinking, I do not remember ever feeling cold before I was 18. I know that's a huge call, but I have no distinct memory of ever being cold or ever. This is a better way of explaining it. Yesterday when I went out for work, because I was working in the office, it was freezing. So I wore a jacket, I wore a scarf, I wore a beanie, a few layers. It was very cold, so I dressed to mitigate for that cold. I have no memory of being under the age of 18 and ever having to do that. Like, I never remember being like, I need to put on a scarf. I do not remember ever experiencing the cold. Just saying, it's weird. The other one is, I do not remember under the age of 18. People are going to laugh, but I maintain this is true. Before the age of 18, I have no memory of ever drinking water. That's not a joke. I have no memories of drinking water before I was 18. Because now, every day, there's like 3 or 4 bottles of water, cold water in my fridge that during the day I drink. At the end of the day, I fill them all up. Before the age of 18, I promise you, I never drank water. The only time I actually remember drinking water at school was like in PE after you like go for a run, you go to the bubbler and you have some water. I have no memory of ever like owning a drink bottle, having a drink bottle, or like consciously choosing to drink water. And maybe that's just my lifestyle. Like maybe I just didn't have a healthy lifestyle, but then I must have had water. I must have drank water, but no memory. Like I remember being 18 and being like, oh, I need to like fill some water bottles and drink more water. And now I drink a lot of water. I'm going on a lot of tangents here because I've realized, and none of this was on the run sheet, I've realized as well, I need to pee like all the time. I never don't need to pee. And it might be a problem. Some of you might be listening to this and being like, Mike, there are clearly problems here. I always need a pee. And I admit, I drink like liters and liters of water a day. Maybe that's not good for you. I don't know. I just love cold water out of the fridge. I hate room temperature water. Chilled water, amazing. So I'll drink I have 5 liter bottles of water, right? So I guess 5 to 6 liters a day. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Guys, I actually don't know. Okay, this is crazy. But I always have to pee. I go to bed. I wake up every morning having to pee at 4 a.m. Oh God, this again. Have no memories of that as a kid. Maybe it's a getting older thing, but now every morning I'm woken up early having to go pee. But just during the day, I pee 7 or 8 times. I don't know if that's normal. Maybe now I'm revealing that I have a serious problem and someone listening is a doctor and is like, Mike, you need to go get that checked out. In which case do. But yeah, just some food for thought, I guess. I always have, that's just me. Anyway, back to the 7 a.m. thing. So at 7 a.m., it's this windy AF day, right? It's exceptionally windy and it's pitch black. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm out of bed. I'll do my morning routine and head up to the local cafe where I'll get my coffee. That's what I do most mornings. And so I'm walking outside. It's 7 a.m., guys. Like, to me, that's like the start of the day for most people. There is no one around. It is pitch black. It is freezing cold. The wind is blowing. It is like crazy. There is not a single person in sight, not a car. And in this moment, as I'm making the 4 or 5 minute walk to my local cafe, I genuinely have the thought, was there an apocalypse overnight? Like, did the world end? Everyone has been killed and I'm just still here. I am the only person left. And like, that is why it's pitch black, because the apocalypse has happened. The sun has blown up. Something has gone wrong here because it should be light. And obviously that wasn't true, or no one would be listening to this, but it certainly did feel in the moment that I was in an apocalypse. Now let's take myself out of this and just investigate that privilege thing where like, to me, being out of the house at 7:02 a.m. on a Tuesday and it being dark and windy, to me, the only viable explanation for that was that there was an apocalypse. That is my life. How insane is that? And I spoke to Claire about it and she's like, yeah, that's normal. That's what life is for people who go do work every day. Anyway, I work hard. Who's going to make this podcast if I don't? That's the thing. But it was crazy. The other thing was, and maybe going back to what I was saying before, maybe it's a school thing or like a high school kid thing, because this morning I went to the local coffee shop at a more reasonable hour, mind you, like 8:30 a.m. And I noticed it was raining outside, so I took my umbrella. So I'm walking with my umbrella to prevent me from getting wet. That's what adults do. And walking on the road opposite me was some kid who, funnily enough, went to my high school. Like he went to the school I went to because I recognized the uniform. And he's walking in the rain, quite heavy rain, just hands in his pockets, no umbrella. I'm like, did this boy's parents not say to him, it's raining, take an umbrella? Does he not have an umbrella? What's going on? But then when I think about me at high school, I just never would have brought an umbrella to school. I would have just walked in the rain. Is this a thing? Can anyone give me any insight on what I'm talking about? Because my thoughts are just so convoluted around this. Hey, I wanted to start the show. Well, start the show is not very apt because I've been ranting about not drinking water for 15 minutes. But I wanted to do this at this point of the show. All the write-ins that you sent in. All the write-ins is just glorified mailbag pretty much, but just a couple of things came in that I wanted. Obviously, each month of this year, we are doing a movie club, producer Pat and I, which has been really, really fun. We have done 5 episodes now, I guess, for January through May. They're all on this feed. There was Now You See Me was January. February was, oh God, now I'm really going to test. February was Her, the Spike Jonze movie. March was The Mummy. April was Freddy Got Fingered, and May was, oh God, Punch Drunk Love. And June, this month, which will come out on the end of the month, is Being John Malkovich. So go and watch that. Patreon Lazar, thank you for being here, Patreon Lazar. He's a Patreon supporter, of course. Sent a message. Listen to the Freddy Got Fingered movie club ep, and I'm glad you both liked the movie. Yeah, me and Pat really spoke highly of it. A movie that is commonly regarded as one of the worst movies ever made. I'm a big fan of it, and I showed my mates once, and they all hated it. And he also showed off, this is in the Discord for the podcast, which you're welcome to join, by the way, chat to other listeners. He's got a bunch of signed DVDs by Tom Green, the creator of Freddy Got Fingered. Also got... love receiving these. What appears to be a drunk text from Patreon Nick Schaefer, longtime listener and Patreon supporter of this show, who sent me a message after midnight on, I think, a Saturday night. Oh no, it must have been a Friday night. And he said, "Oi, Mike, you're the best. Walking home after work drinks, listening to the pod. That's what life's all about. Thank you, Patria Schaefer. It was great to hear from you again. And if you haven't written into the show, make sure you write in. Just send a little note like that, a drunk message, whatever you want. Send it through. I would love to hear from you.
All the write-ins that you sent in.
I really wanted to talk about Kyle and Jackie O, who are now broadcasting in Melbourne. A little bit of context, of course. Kyle and Jackie O, probably the biggest radio show in Australia, have constantly dominated in radio ratings in Sydney, are marred with a history of controversy on their radio show, which I won't get too into, but they are known for being quite a smutty and kind of sexualized, gossipy, Daily Mail-esque show. Also, at one point, they talked about this show on their show, which was very cool. If you remember that, there's a whole episode about it. They talked about me, this guy, Radio Mike. That was fun. And I gotta say, when it comes to Kyle and Jackie O, like, they've basically just been networked into Melbourne. So now they're both broadcasting in Sydney and Melbourne, and it's this big shake-up of Melbourne breakfast radio's landscape. Not going to get too into that stuff here, but I did just kind of loosely want to talk about, like, media literacy and the misreporting around Kyle and Jackie O that's just happened, okay? Because very recently, I think last week, the survey results came out for radio, which is basically the radio ratings survey. And it essentially showed that KISS, the station that Kyle and Jackie O broadcast on in Melbourne, has gone down. And essentially, the media has a field day with this. They love that KISS has gone down because it means they can put all these headlines out, and so many different media organizations did this, being like, Kyle and Jackie O bomb in Melbourne. Kyle and Jackie O fail in Melbourne. Kyle and Jackie O Melbourne failure, right? Basically saying, well, their ratings have gone down, therefore it's a failure. Now, I talked a bit about this last week on the pod about like media literacy and how the media really dictates the story, because this is just so interesting for anyone that has worked in radio, is interested in radio, or like anything like that. Because Kyle and Jackie O, basically the way radio ratings work, and this is just, it's archaic and it's really interesting, is like, and this is not a joke, this is actually real. People go around to people's houses from like the radio ratings company and go, hey, here's a paper survey. Can you, for the next 2 weeks, fill out everything you've listened to on radio and just write it in here? And like, then we'll come and collect it and we'll use that data to make the ratings. And I got one of these once when I was like in year 8 or 9. This guy knocked on the door. He's like, oh, do the radio survey. I was like, all right. And then I forgot about it and didn't want to do it. And then he called me. He's like, hey, have you been filling out the radio survey? And I was like, yeah. And I hadn't. So then I didn't want to like get in trouble. So I just literally just like wrote down Fox FM and Triple J because they were like the only 2 radio stations I knew, and just made up times that I had listened to them even though I hadn't. And like, think about that. That's me. That's how I approached it. I forgot about it. I didn't care about it at all. And then I made up basically off the top of my head what I had seen. And then I handed it back and they would have done the ratings. This is like 15 years ago. Oh no, 10 years ago. And actually way more than 10 years ago, probably, yes, 15. And so that's how it works. They get people to fill them out manually. And at the end of the day, I think people think that there's this like magic kind of thing in the radio that sends the information somewhere. They're like, someone's listening. Like, it's that doesn't exist. It's not real. It's all just manual handwritten data that is given and then like put into some machine that spits out. And it's like, well, this is like basically what it would be based on the results we got. At the end of the day, it's more about people like being aware of brands and rather than actually listening. Like if you had seen a show on a clip on Instagram or on a billboard, you might be like, oh yeah, I'll just put down Fox because I saw that clip on Instagram, even though that doesn't mean you actually listened to Fox FM. And that's like what I find hilarious about it, because that's what I did. I was like, what do I know? I know Fox because at the time Hamish and Andy are on Fox. I know Triple J because that's what young people are supposed to listen to. So I just did that. And I didn't listen to any radio. Not to mention people generally aren't listening to radio. So here's the thing. That happens. Kiss goes down. The media reports about Kyle and Jackie O's big bomb in Melbourne and everything. And the thing is, Kyle and Jackie O were only like broadcasting for like 3 of the 10 weeks that the survey counted for, or like something along those lines, okay? They weren't even broadcasting for most of the time. So everyone in the industry knows that that survey result for Kyle and Jackie O is meaningless. It's absolutely pointless because they weren't even broadcasting for the whole time. So there's no way it could be an accurate gauge of who's listening to them in Melbourne. Yet, and this is where like I encourage everyone listening, and I assume most people listening are relatively intelligent, just like this is when what I was saying last week, where I was talking about Jerry Seinfeld and the news around him, right? This is where the media dictates a story. They're not actually reporting on fact. None of these organizations, like whoever it is, like news.com.au, Daily Mail, The Australian, The Courier Mail, whoever these organizations are, they don't care about the truth. They care about getting a story and a narrative going that drives people to come to those sites and click on them. That's what they care about, okay? Because at the end of the day, they want to make money. So they want people to be like, oh yes, I hate Kyle and Jackie O. Now I'm going to read this article about how they failed, when really it's irrelevant. And I personally don't care if Kyle and Jackie O succeed or fail. It doesn't affect me. I just find it funny that this is what we accept as the media now. Like, I think this is what I was saying, where basically people see these headlines everywhere. Kyle and Jackie O bomb, Kyle and Jackie O fail, Kyle and Jackie O not rating in Melbourne, no one in Melbourne listening to Kyle and Jackie O, even though that isn't really the truth at all. But that's what the media is saying, because that's what the media wants people to think. And then people basically start talking about that based on the headlines they've seen. And then people in the workplace go, oh, apparently Kyle and Jackie O are failing. And that's not true, but it's this thing of like, oh, apparently this, I hate that. And it's just so important now more than ever to remember that the media does not care about what is real. They don't care about the facts. They care about clickbait and trying to find the story that people will click on, not the story that is the truth. Because if they report Kiss FM ratings down, but Kyle and Jackie O not really part of this survey because they only broadcasted for 2 weeks of the 10 weeks of the survey, that's not a clickable headline. Nothing about that makes people want to click it. And this is where you got to remember, like, these are like websites designed to make you click to get money. And I just thought this was a perfect example off the back of what I was talking about last week that I just found really, really interesting, particularly because I'm in the industry. So it'll probably be more like the next radio survey that'll be more of a stronger indication of how Kyle and Jackie O have started. And I'm really interested to see that one. Okay. Got to talk about this because like it affects me, it possibly affects you, and it's interesting. So Apple held their worldwide developers conference online, which is basically where they kind of talk about a bunch of the new software and iOS and iPad OS and Apple Watch OS and OS X, all of the stuff that they're doing in their new software, okay? There's some really cool stuff that they're bringing out that I think is going to be really useful for me. I think the main thing that they did was this idea of iPhone mirroring on your Mac, because as I said, I work from home. So most of the time I'm sitting on my computer editing or like reading something or whatever it might be, doing emails. And sometimes just the most rudimentary, like annoying thing is like when your phone's in the other room, but you've got a call or something like that, or you just want to check something that's on your phone. You can't do it without leaving the computer. Now you can click a button on your Mac and it just brings your phone screen up and you can just do anything on your phone that you could right from the computer, which I think is going to be, for me, it's going to be amazing. I really think that feature will be really, really helpful for many, many reasons that I won't get into. But a few things they're doing, and I've realized that I think Apple has kind of inadvertently created what can only be described as a cheater's paradise.
Been spending all our lives trying to make a cheater's paradise.
Let me explain. So I'm watching this worldwide developers conference from Apple, and they start talking about this new feature that you can use on your iPhone. And I found it very, very interesting. Take a listen.
Sometimes we hand our device to someone so they can look at a photo or play a game, but we want peace of mind that they can't get into sensitive areas of our phone. So this year, we're giving you a new way to protect sensitive apps and the information inside them by letting you lock an app. When you choose to lock an app, if someone else tries to tap it, they will be required to authenticate using Face ID, Touch ID, or your passcode. And information from inside the app won't appear in other places across the system, like in search and notifications, so others won't inadvertently see sensitive information. There may also be occasions when you want to hide an app that you don't want others to know is installed on your device.
Okay, so you can hide an app. First of all, did you hear the music they started bringing in underneath him when he was saying this? I managed to isolate it. Just listen to this. It's the most optimistic, revelation music ever. It's like you can picture a cheating husband being like, oh my God, I never thought this would be possible. This solves all of my problems. Listen to this. It's exactly what the music is supposed to represent, okay? Because they're trying to make it sound like an innocent thing, but this is just, hey, if you're cheating on your wife, now it's easier to hide it and get away with it. Because I think we've all had that moment, I guess, maybe even an innocent moment where someone's looking at your camera roll or someone's looking at your photos or you're showing someone something and then a text comes up from someone that you don't want them to see or anything kind of like that, right? We've all had that moment happen and it's awkward and embarrassing. So I do get the practicality of having something like this install, active on your phone. I can hide apps, but it does feel like you can very easily hide dating apps and, people won't know you have a dating app installed, or you can hide text messages and people can't search your text messages or anything like that, right? Which, I guess you shouldn't be searching someone else's text messages anyway because it's private, but I guess this is just another layer to prevent people from breaking the honesty system of not doing that. But I just think it is, to me, I'm thinking of the main way this is going to be used, and it's because the only apps that you would really theoretically or feasibly want to hide is something that's embarrassing or wrong. And the example they used in the advert is an app about wigs or hair regrowth or something like that, which I guess maybe you wouldn't want someone to know that. But overall, I do feel like the idea is you can have Tinder installed and no one can really know, and that essentially you're just really easily able to cheat on someone without them really knowing or even being suspicious of it. I'm just really curious about it. And just hiding stuff from being able to be seen and searched and everything. It's just A+ to Apple for privacy. This is privacy to the max. All your personal stuff hidden. No one can find out anything about it. It certainly is.
Been spending all our lives trying to make a cheater's paradise.
The other thing Apple talked about, they obviously have, they've got this new thing called Genmoji, which now, get this, with the power of AI, you can now make any emoji you want. You can just AI generate any emoji. So but I wonder about this because we have our kind of universal language of emoji. You've got crying laughter. It's this is so funny. You've got thumbs up. That's yes. You've got okay symbol. That's also yes or okay. You've got smiley face. That's yeah, happy. You've got sad face. Yeah, we've got this universal language of emoji that can only be compared to Egyptian hieroglyphics in how well it communicates our feelings through pictures. But now you can be I think the example they actually use is type in dog riding skateboard and it'll give you an emoji. So like, I actually wonder, obviously that we've had like the eggplant emoji and the peach emoji that represent PP and VV respectively. Do we now just have emojis of those things? You don't know, because there's something cheeky about the eggplant emoji, right? You love the eggplant emoji. It's a universal cheeky symbol. But now with auto-generated emojis, can you just, generate what the eggplant is supposed to represent? In which case, one, you're being less subtle. Even though the eggplant isn't really subtle, there's still a level of subtlety to it. And two, you're being really explicit, which is what the eggplant emoji is supposed to circumvent. It's very interesting stuff happening here. And what are the limits to this? Could you literally go dragon flying a helicopter that's rescuing a puppy that's drowning in the Indian Ocean? Could you do that? Does it make an emoji? Like, emojis are quite small. How do you get all this information into one emoji? I'm curious to see how this works. But most crucially with this developers conference was the announcement of Apple Intelligence.
Introducing Apple Intelligence, the new personal intelligence system that makes your most personal products even more useful and delightful.
Apple Intelligence, aka AI. Wow, Apple. Wow. Do you see what they're doing here? Okay, I actually looked it up. The term AI, as in artificial intelligence, originated in 1955 by a guy called John McCarthy, who held a workshop at Dartmouth on artificial intelligence, which is the first known use of the term and how it came into popular usage. So artificial intelligence, we all know what AI is. It's artificial intelligence. But what Apple has done here, which I've got to say is genius, no pun intended, okay? Mind the pun. It is genius. They have now taken AI, they have hijacked it, brought it to their side, and gone Apple Intelligence. Everyone else is using AI. Samsung's using AI. Google Pixel, ChatGPT. Everything's using AI. AI, it's the new thing. AI is everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. And then Apple now muddies the brand by going Apple Intelligence. So now every time you think AI, not only do you think artificial intelligence, but also Apple Intelligence. It is genius. They've hijacked it. Do I think it's right? No. But Apple don't play fair, right? It's kind of like when you want cola, the drink, everyone just says, do you have Coke? Even if you prefer Pepsi, wherever you are, you just say, I'll have a Coke. They say, Pepsi okay? Yeah, Pepsi's fine. Coke has become the universal term for cola. And now Apple is trying to make AI, Apple Intelligence, the universal term for artificial intelligence. And I think it is utter genius by them. The other thing, which I've talked about on the pod before, is the price point was announced in Australia, at least, for the Apple Vision Pro. Now, I have talked extensively on this pod in the past about why I think Apple Vision Pro is probably going to fail. It's too soon, okay? Here's confirmation to me that it will fail, at least in the short term. It's $5,999 Australian. That's a lot of money. Think of all the stuff you could buy for $6,000 as it, like regular everyday people just cannot get one of these. And like I can see it maybe being used in like big business and corporate and tech and stuff, but I don't think it's gonna. They're trying to market it for like personal use, like all of these great things you can do around the house when you're wearing your Apple Vision Pro. Seriously doubt, and I seriously doubt it's going to happen, but also I think there's got to be a huge cultural shift in humans to allow this technology in. I think it's too far on the side of like dystopian future that people just aren't quite ready for that yet. I can see us using like, ChatGPT and everything and all that stuff, but once it becomes like a wearable thing that augments reality, I think that we're not quite ready for in like an everyday life sort of thing. I think it'll be a thing people will want to try and be like, oh, that's cool, but it's not like ready to be fully integrated. And personally, I think people will get it if it was like, say like contact lenses that you put in right? Like something slightly invisible, not something like big and bulky that the Apple Vision Pro is. Really interested to see how it goes. And if you've got any thoughts on it, I'd be keen to know. All right, I'm going to end it there, but let's do one of these bad boys.
The plug.
World tour episodes are going up. Travel pods with me and Claire just talking about our trip to Japan. We recently did one on our first sort of 5 days in Tokyo, talking about a bunch of the stuff we did there, like the street Mario Kart, going to Tokyo Disney Sea, going to the Tokyo Tower, like a bunch of stuff. The best meal we had in Tokyo. It was really fun recording them, and there is another one on Monday going up about our time in Kyoto. So hopefully we will have those every Monday for a few weeks. Please go and listen to them and let me know your thoughts. As well as that, Harry Potter and the Boys is up every Tuesday. Great episodes rolling out with Sam Garlep. They have been so fun. Please go and listen to that pod as well. From there, I have a bunch of YouTube videos that have gone up and are going up. This is original content for YouTube. I'm honestly thinking about just ripping the video audio and throwing it on this feed so more people can hear it. I'm not 100% sure yet. Most recently, I did a video on how Rebel Wilson said that straight actors should be allowed to play gay characters, which I thought was an interesting discussion, sort of a philosophical debate about acting, and I would love to know your thoughts, so go and listen to that. Also this week on YouTube, I will have a video about the episode of Pokemon in 1997 that caused 600 kids in Japan to be hospitalized for seizures. How did it happen? Watch the video. It's a really, really good one. Plus, I'm doing one today. There should be one out tomorrow, actually, or today at the time you're listening. That is my review and thoughts on Inside Out 2, the newest Pixar movie, which we were lucky enough to go to the preview screening of, thanks to Disney. And I gotta say, I was very pleasantly surprised by this, and I thought it was great. Full thoughts up on YouTube. I might drop the audio here as well. I'm not 100% sure. And final plug for this week. Let me see. Oh, yes, of course. I am going to be I'll have a blog up on Sunday. Look at all this content. World tours on Monday. Harry Potter and the Boys on Tuesday. Thursday, 20th Century Boy. You'll have videos on YouTube. There's heaps of shit, okay? It's great. Basically, my blog this week, it'll be up on Sunday. I'm not 100% sure, but the thing I'm interested in writing about at radiomike.substack.com is 3 people I loved as a kid that are now cancelled, in inverted commas, by today's standards. So if you're interested in that, I've got a few thoughts kind of coming off the back of that video I talked about Rebel Wilson. So if you are interested in that, my blog, radiomike.substack.com, is there. So I would love for you to check that out. Okay, thank you so much for listening this week, guys. Check out some of my other content. Donate to the Patreon, patreon.com/radiomike. And I will see you in the next episode next week. My name's been Radio Mike, and this has been The Inside of My Mind. Catch you later.
Inside